The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 5. Into Battle. Chapter 7. Tal plummeted down, the light rope spilling out behind him. Down and down he fell, his arms spread wide, his head back. He saw the lake of ash below, coming closer and closer and closer, and still he fell, the light rope running free. Any moment, the rope would run out, and he would bounce back. But the moment didn't come, and the lake was so close, only 10 or 20 stretches below, and this time Atris wasn't nearby to catch him. The rope was too long. He was going to hit the lake. Tal wrapped his arms around his head and screwed his eyes shut. He felt his stomach stay behind as his fall was suddenly arrested. He opened his eyes and saw the surface of the lake just beyond his reach. And then he was hurtling up again as the rope jerked him back. His stomach felt like it was determined to stay on the surface of the lake as Tal bounced up and down. When he finally came to rest, he was hanging about 4 stretches above the surface of the ash and 60 stretches from the shore. The surface of the lake was quite smooth. Even though it looked completely gray higher up, from this distance all the clear crystals allowed Tal to see a little way under the surface. It was like looking into very cloudy water. Not that there was anything to see, which was a good sign. He didn't want to see anything there. Flipping himself up, Tal grabbed the rope. He used his sunstone to unravel the indigo binding thread. He hung from his hands for a moment, then let himself go. Above him, his light rope dissipated into the air. Tal fell straight down into the strange fluid of the lake, only remembering to hold his arms out at the last minute so his head didn't go under. The mixture of ash and tiny crystals almost felt like water, but it was warm and dry, and it was much harder to move through. Luckily, it was easier to stay afloat. Tal started swimming to the shore immediately. It would be daylight throughout the crater soon, and he had to find somewhere to hide. He was halfway to the shore when he noticed that there was another noise beside the curious rustling sound of his own swimming. A sound that he could feel as a vibration through the ash, as well as hear. It was coming from behind him, so he rolled over to look, while continuing with a fairly clumsy backstroke. At first he couldn't see anything. Then a large and highly unwelcome shape briefly surfaced about 100 stretches away, before disappearing again. Tal saw a great long back of serrated blue and red scales, accompanied by the brief flash of a huge mouth, surrounded by 4 long, questing tendrils. Suddenly, Tal's arms started thrashing through the ash with new strength and speed. He knew what he'd seen. It was a curfer, one of the great carnivores of the lake, a creature played in Beastmaker for strength or special. Its special ability lay in its 6 feathery tentacles. 4 were several times longer than a man and sensed vibration and movement. 2 were shorter, but oozed a paralyzing venom. Tal looked again. The curfer briefly broached the surface, tentacles rising into the air before they splashed down ahead of its body. It had closed the distance between them by half in only a few seconds. He had no chance of outswimming it. The chosen boy stopped swimming, though his feet trod the ash to keep him afloat. He raised his sunstone ring and concentrated on it. Red light grew in intensity there, until it was almost blinding. A tentacle rose up out of the ash just a stretch away, one of the sensing tentacles, but the paralyzing tentacle would not be far behind. Tal waited. The tentacle quested forward and touched his chest. He flinched, and it recoiled. Then came the target Tal had been waiting for. The curfer breached again, and he saw its cavernous mouth, a mouth lined with wriggling cilia instead of teeth. Tal fired the red ray of destruction at the highest intensity he could summon, straight between the monster's jaws. Light exploded everywhere, the crystals in the ash picking up and multiplying the red flash. Tal was momentarily blinded. Something hit him, and he screamed, thinking it was the paralyzing tentacle. Ash filled his mouth. The curfer had reared up and splashed down, creating a huge wave. Tal's vision cleared as he spat out ash. For a moment he couldn't orient himself, couldn't see the shore or the monster. Then he saw the curfer floating on the surface, its tentacles limp. It was either stunned or dead. Tal didn't wait around to see which it was. He struck out for the shore as fast as he could. He climbed up onto a beach of more solid ash. He didn't look behind until he was safely on rock and a good 20 stretches from the lake. Then he turned around, his sunstone ready, in case the Kerfur was going to drag itself after him. It wasn't. As Tal watched, the inert creature bobbed under once, then twice, as if something was nibbling on it. Something was. Tal couldn't help retreating even farther from the lake as the whole Kerfur, a creature that would weigh 10 times as much as Tal, disappeared with a sudden pop, leaving a deep whirlpool in a lake that was easily 50 stretches in diameter. Tal shuddered. He was glad he hadn't encountered whatever that was instead of the Kerfur. Now his priority was to find somewhere to hide, so he wasn't exposed out here in the sun. The crater wall had lots of caves, but was there one close by? He ran toward the wall, jumping from one tumbled rock to another. There were a few promising patches of dark shadow ahead. One of them should be a cave mouth, and apart from the lake, the Chosen made sure that there were no creatures within the crater itself, so there should be no danger from a cavern mouth or any other of the horrendous inhabitants of the rest of Einir. At least, Tal thought there shouldn't be any danger, but then he'd never gone into any caves that weren't on the path.